Women of the Channel Leadership Network. I'm Jackie Rives, your community leader, and welcome to another Woman of the Week. This week, I'm very excited to get to know Maureen Gaumer, Senior Director, North America Channel Marketing with Dell Technologies. Hi, Maureen. Thank you so much for joining me.
So happy to be here with you
We're
today and with all the women of the channel.
Yes, and we're so excited to get to know you and celebrate you this week. So let's start off with the icebreaker questions. Where do you live and where did you grow up if that's different?
I currently live in the Seattle, Washington area, and I grew up in Sacramento, California, in Roseville.
Oh, two great spots.
Yeah,
All right. Well, what is a little known fact or perhaps a fun fact that you're willing to share with all of us?
I love to paddleboard. I do not know how to
Oh,
swim. So
what?
I know. I am highly motivated to stay on that board. Highly motivated. Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm afraid of the water. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm afraid of the water, but I want to be in control of how I enter it. So yeah, falling off or diving in, that is just absolutely not my thing. But I do love to paddleboard. I think it's very, very relaxing to be out on the water.
I think you're very brave for doing something like that and not knowing how to swim. So kudos to you for that.
Thanks.
Well, let's dive into your career path and how you have reached this extraordinary position at Dell Technologies.
Thank you. I have been in marketing my entire career. I've worked with a lot of people who have been able to make the move between sales and marketing, and they've got a different intelligence than I do. But I've been in marketing roles. I started out in public relations, and in that I also learned analyst relations, and I moved to a web development shop, and then I moved to another type of agency that did more community relations, and then I moved back in-house to HP at that time, and I did product launches and collateral development and then worked into integrated campaigns. So I've done a wide variety of things across marketing, but really I reached this position ultimately by back then at that time talking to my boss and saying I wanted to move into channel marketing. I saw I was in a global role and working with my regional colleagues, I saw the kinds of things that they were doing and really how I felt like that was where rubber was meeting the road in activating with customers and activating through partners. And I wanted to learn how to do that. So I told Anna at the time, I said that's where I wanted to go. And she supported me in learning more about how that was done with it, working with our regional teams and getting out and meeting with partners. And then ultimately she left and joined EMC. And when she had an opportunity to bring me in and join her new org, I jumped at it. That was the first time I got to be in a role that was dedicated to channel marketing. And, here I am 12 years and 7 different roles later, all in channel marketing. I've gotten to do a wide variety of things and I'm still learning and I still love it.
So, Maureen, with all of that experience, have you ever been in a role that you didn't like? And if so, how did you kind of navigate through that?
Yes, I have. In 2015, we did a reorg, and I was asked to take a role in our global partner marketing organization at that time, responsible for our global partner summit 90 days before the event. And to that
Mm.
point in my career, I had never done any kind of big event production, experiential production. So I was way, way out of my comfort zone, but I navigated through it by leaning into the team. The team that I was working with, that I became the leader of, had been doing it for years. So I leaned into their experience and their expertise. We had a fantastic production company we were working with. So they were the experts. I trusted them fully and learned a lot on the job. Told myself repeatedly I just never wanted to do that again because I think it's just so far out of my comfort zone. I never wanted to be quite that uncomfortable again. But I learned so much from that experience as a leader and just in the skills that I developed in for the first time doing events and production like that. It was absolutely exhilarating and I was really glad I didn't have to do it again the next year.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I love that you were able to lean into your team's expertise
Oh, yeah.
and, perhaps you did have a little fun. You're smiling today, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
But
There
we're
there
able
were
to
moments.
recognize that maybe this wasn't for you, and that is a very strong thing to do as a leader is kind of admitting like, hey, this is not really in my skill set and not something that I enjoyed.
Not my bag.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. Well, let's kind of pivot to, you've shared much of your experience. So I feel like you would be able to identify some patterns you've noticed over the years at work and things we could be doing better to advance our careers.
Yeah, I've noticed, especially I'd say in the last 5 or 6 years, and I don't know if it's a COVID thing but a lot of people see growth or career advancement only as a promotion, only as something that's
Mm,
linear or upward. And they don't appreciate as much. And what I try to emphasize with my teams and people I work with is focusing more on growth is any opportunity, and it's what you do to take advantage of that opportunity, to learn something new, sit in a different seat, even within a marketing organization or just functionally, cross functionally within the business, to widen your perspective and understand the different areas of impact that marketing can have, or that, direct versus channel, or how you can interface differently with sales operations. If you're widening your aperture and widening your understanding of how the business works, you are more valuable to the business, and you can provide greater insights to your job function, but also how you are collaborating with others. So I always encourage people to squiggle around, not think of everything as only linear and upward. If you're working in a large company that has roles in country, in region, in global, move between those three levels so that you can
mhm.
understand how it works so differently versus, like global strategy versus, as I said, like rubber really meeting the road, how something gets executed in a country. Have an opportunity to move to different functional areas, even within marketing or within your business functional areas. So again, you can just widen your experience and provide more value. Embrace squiggling around as much as possible. That's something that I learned from a keynote speaker years ago. It may have been at a Women of the Channel event, actually, where the woman was talked about how she squiggled in her career. And I think I've done the same. Even though I've always been in marketing, I've squiggled around and tried different things. And the growth opportunity comes from that. And that can lead to different types of career advancement. It's not always just a promotion. I really try to focus on that myself and get my team to focus on that. And I think that that would make us all more impactful.
I couldn't agree with you more. I love that answer. And I definitely love the term squiggle around. I think I might be using that because it's something that kind of sits in your mind like, okay, yes, it doesn't have to be this linear path, like you said. So, Maureen, what has driven you to continue to grow in your leadership roles?
Well, as I said, like 12 years dedicated in channel, but 7 different roles because I have gotten opportunities. And
Mm,
that fuels me, that I get a chance to learn something new. Even in the last, 5 years ago, I moved from leading our North America organization and I joined our global team. And when I first joined the global organization, I was leading the team that does our partner program marketing. And I learned a lot more about our partner program where I thought I knew so much because I'd been working with it in it for so many years. But man, when you're leading the marketing team that's leading, marketing the program, you learn it at a whole different level. And then from there, I got to move into global alliances. And I'd never worked with global alliances partners before. And so where I was so familiar with channel and resellers and distribution, working with the global alliances partners, working with, our biggest GSIs, that was eye-opening to me how they function so differently. Um, how within their own businesses they function so differently, region to region, let alone globally. So I've just really embraced those opportunities to learn new things, learn new parts of the business, learn new parts of the channel, the partner ecosystem, and that's really fueled me. And then I had an opportunity 3 months ago to come back into the North America organization, but in the last 5 years, even that has changed so much. And so I wasn't coming back into the same role that I had 5 years ago. The industry has changed, the company has changed, the team has changed, the marketing organization has changed. So it's been a little bit like turning on a TV show where you've missed a few seasons and you're catching back up with some of the characters and the plot lines. But it's been
yeah.
amazing because I get to keep learning and growing, and that really fuels me.
Well, that is very clear. Even throughout our discussion today, you have said a lot about learning and growing, and that seems to drive you
For sure.
as a leader. I think we have time for a quick one more. And I always
Okay.
love asking this question because I always get like a fun, cool tip or a different perspective that I hadn't thought of. So, what do you do to protect or create that work life balance for you?
I love Pilates. So that is one thing in my day that when I have booked a class and I go 4 or 5 times a week, weeknights and weekends, if I've booked a class, protect that time. I may have to come back and work a little bit in the evening to wrap something up, send one last email, but I will protect that time that I've made that commitment to myself. So that's one thing I definitely focus on. And then another, I do keep two phones. I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, two phones, but that also helps me. Like when I can leave the work phone on the desk and even just go to a Pilates class and I'm driving 15 minutes, I'm there for an hour, I'm driving 15 minutes back, I get a little break, I get a little separation. And definitely sometimes on the weekends too, I just want to leave the work phone on the desk. And again, have that separation that helps me create balance.
I can see how that would be beneficial. At first, I was like, oh no, two phones. But just as you said, those little distractions that pop up, even while separation, sometimes are really hard to ignore. Maureen, it was so great to get to know you. And thank you for letting us celebrate you as our Woman of the Week.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being here.
All right, community members, please comment, share your insights, and let's give Maureen those high fives this week. And until next time, have an amazing week.